everybody, and welcome back to another video. So, the IceWings have historically been one of the most elitist and unforgiving tribes throughout Purian history. Family life and rankings are stressful and competitive, with everyone in the palace held to such a high standard. But I've talked about these frost dragons before, and how their unrealistic expectations nearly ruined them forever. However, Winter, one of the protagonists of Arc 2, had so much of himself change due to growing up in an environment like this. And while IceWings of the future thankfully won't share all his struggles, they are still worthy to highlight. April Higgs wanted me to discuss the effects of castle life on Winter, so that's what I'll be talking about with you guys today. But before we begin, a huge shout out to my patrons! North of 95, Thistle, Noopto, Pyronuke, Avril, Pancake, Escarada, Adequin, Alex Cleaver, Shadowhunter, That One Seawing, Moonclaw, and Isaac. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Links to their social medias are in the description down below. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Life as an IceWing stuck in the circle system was downright awful. You were meant to live in an ever-changing hierarchy, born to fit expectations impossible for any dragon to reach. If you weren't perfect, you weren't anyone to them. Winter spent his whole life trying to fit into the mold his parents in Kingdom had. Lose your place in the top circles, and you'd be sent far away from everything you ever had. No one would think of you the same, and it was almost a fate worse than death. And even murder itself was possible to swap spots. Hailstorm, Winter's older brother, challenged him in the Diamond Trial, a way to often drastically switch the position and view of an IceWing in the circles. They'd seriously let dragons die painfully or live a life of misery just to keep this whole system going. An IceWing's fate is decided at their 7th birthday, and the ranking is deemed final by this point. So, by the time they're our version of 18, their entire future is not theirs, and up to only the tough and impossible decisions they made as a literal child. Families aren't very loving in the palace. Narwhal, Winter's father, had the same mantra he always repeated: be strong, be vigilant, strike first. It was what his children were meant to live by from the moment they hatched. Even when he finally saw Winter again after such a long time, he remarked to his own son that he wished he hadn't returned. Narwhal believed Winter would die during the Diamond Trial, and was completely okay with that fact, thinking Hailstorm to be superior and a better child as a result. Your own life not mattering to the people who gave it to you is actually crazy. Tundra, his mother, was no different. In fact, she was often worse. When Winter didn't want to kill a polar bear during a hunt, he was dropped down into the 5th circle. He was just a dragonet, and he didn't want to hurt such a graceful animal just to impress the palace and move up a rank. Additionally, Tundra had Winter memorize the gruesome stories of IceWings who had died during the trial he would later face, showing no care for violence entering her son's young and impressionable mind. She's a demanding and malicious mother, who ignored all of Winter's efforts and his value as a dragon. Often, this IceWing would spend hours practicing the perfect pose or way of greeting others in higher circles. However, no one cared about the work he put into trying to fit into their skewed and impossible image. All of this caused a deeper feeling of self-hatred and insecurity inside Winter, who should have been helped to flourish by his family, not had himself buried, scolded, and berated. Thankfully, his experiences at Jade Mountain Academy and beyond have really helped this dragon feel more free than he ever thought possible. Even though Winter initially dreaded spending time with non-IceWings, he came to embrace his own differences and those belonging to others. As a result, he started to grow into the dragon he was meant to be, losing that learned harshness. Winter is no killer or copy. He's an IceWing with a surprisingly warm heart, although don't let him know that I said that. I'm so happy to see where things might take him if we see more of this dragonet in the future of WoF. Surrounded by characters who value him and the right environment for him to grow, Winter has a very bright future on the way. And I hope that no matter what he does or who he's with, he'll be happy. But that's pretty much it for this video. How do you think palace life is going to change now that Snowfall did what was necessary for a tribe to exist, how they were meant to? Do you relate to Winter in any way, or know of someone who does? Let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.